core of the theory goes like this. The reason this group wore your uniforms and masks was to hide the fact that they were secretly FBI agents, obviously. And that once Kash Patel was in charge of the FBI, he would simply fire the agents involved and the group would cease to exist. That's how it goes. Well, Mr. Patel was sworn into office back in February, and this was the local news in Kansas City this past weekend.
Kansas City, Missouri residents are expressing alarm after a hate group marched in downtown Kansas City yesterday. We got footage of that group while they were at the Liberty Memorial before they began their march downtown. The group was in a uniform wearing tan hats, white masks covering their faces, navy blue shirts, tan pants and boots. Some were carrying shields. The flags they carried included upside down American flags, the Confederate flag, and a flag that identifies the group as the Patriot Front.
Seems very much like Patriot Front still exists. I wonder how FBI Director Kash Patel will explain that one. See, FBI Director Patel and his number two, Dan Bongino, have a problem. Both of them have spent years promoting conspiracy theories surrounding the FBI. But now they are actually in charge of the FBI. Now they are the dogs that caught the car.
I don't know how Jeffrey Epstein died. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. I wasn't there. All I can tell you is it's awfully suspicious how that happened. Oh, look, the cameras broke. Oh, look, he strangled himself on a bed thing. Wow, amazing how that worked out.
That was Dan Bongino on his show last September. Now take a look at how Patel and Bongino talked about Jeffrey Epstein earlier this month.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
What a difference a few months makes. Another conspiracy Bongino pushed was the idea that Secret Service had denied a request from Trump for quote unquote enhanced security just before the assassination attempt on Trump's life. Bongino claimed he had a direct source and alluded to a larger conspiracy. But listen to him now, responding to a question about whether there really was any conspiracy surrounding that assassination attempt.
Are we going to be surprised at what you learned?
You know what, Maria? Kash is not kidding. We've been personally briefed extensively on every single detail, nugget, tendril of this case. In some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there. And I know people, I get it. I understand. It's not there.
The there you were looking for is not there. Now, this would all just be funny if it were not for the fact that these two guys now actually have to run the FBI. And while they're owning up to the fact that some of their conspiracies had no there, which is good, they also clearly know they have upset their audience, and their audience has told them that too. So yesterday, Dan Bongino announced the reopening of 3 cases which have been regular targets of conspiracy theorists. The leak of the Dobbs draft decision overturning Roe v. Wade, the pipe bombs found in D.C. on January 6th, and the cocaine found in the White House in July of 2023. Will there be any there? Probably not. But it might just keep their conspiracy theory-loving base happy enough, at least for now. Coming up, as lots of news organizations been, the hallmark of Donald Trump's second term has been a constant push to bully, punish, and even control news organizations. Sometimes that's been through less obvious means, like banning reporters from certain areas of the Pentagon or exerting greater control over the White House press pool, and pushing Voice of America to carry programming from the Trump-adoring cable channel OAN. But other times, the Trump administration's assault on the free press has been more direct, like this month's executive order to end public funding for media organizations NPR and PBS. Well, today, NPR, alongside 3 other public radio stations, decided to fight back. They decided to sue the Trump administration to stop that order. In the lawsuit, the plaintiffs wrote, "It is not always obvious when the government has acted with a retaliatory purpose in violation of the First Amendment. But this wolf comes as a wolf." Joining me now is Ted Boutros, partner at Gibson & Dunn and a longtime attorney who has represented media outlets in First Amendment cases. He's one of the lawyers representing NPR. Ted, thank you so much for taking the time. I wanted to start, only a small portion, about 1% of NPR's funding comes directly from the federal government. Sometimes people are confused about that. I wanted to repeat it. So money doesn't entirely seem to be what is at stake in this case, or you tell me otherwise, but what is at stake here?
What's at stake, Jen, is the First Amendment, the independence of the press, the Public Broadcasting Act, which formed the public media network, both NPR radio network and the local stations. And one of the cardinal principles of the First Amendment is that the government cannot dictate what private journalists and other media entities say, what their editorial choices are. That's what's at stake here. This executive order blatantly interferes with the independence of NPR and with the local stations 246 local stations around the country.
So many people watching, I'm sure, listen to NPR. I'm an NPR listener as well. What is the lawsuit was just filed today. What is the next step here in the process?
The next step is we will go in for a preliminary injunction to enjoin the executive order. And one thing that's very important to keep in mind, it not only precludes direct funding by the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, which, as you note, is a small portion of the funding, but it would preclude the local stations from subscribing to and buying NPR content. And so it's taking away their autonomy, and it's just on its face viewpoint discrimination, retaliation for speech. And it would be one thing if the government was just saying we don't have enough money, but that's not what the executive order says. It's saying the president and the administration does not like NPR's coverage, its content, and that's about as bad as it gets. That's a wolf. As Justice Scalia said in the quote you read at the beginning, it's an obvious, clear First Amendment violation. We are going to go into court and seek it being enjoined.
I should note that was a Scalia quote from his past writing, but it was artfully written in this case today. We've worked on these cases defending First Amendment rights for a long time. NPR and PBS are certainly probably not going to be the last targets in terms of that right and the freedom of press. How should media organizations prepare for this moment?
It is a very important moment. The press is one of the few groups in our society that are baked into the Constitution, really as part of democracy. And another case I like to cite is Citizens United, which is controversial sometimes, but it really says what the First Amendment is all about. And it's getting information to the citizenry so we can all make decisions about how to govern ourselves. And right now, there's a multifaceted attack on the press, both rhetorically and through these legal means that are meant to cut off the independence of journalists and their ability to get the public the information they need to figure out how to govern the country. And that's what this is all about. It's not a partisan issue. There's been bipartisan support for decades for NPR, for the public broadcasting system. This is about the public, the millions of people who get their news and information about the national scene and international scene from NPR. And its local stations' activities. It's really a bigger picture issue that concerns all of us. We just want there to be free speech, freedom of the press, freedom of association in this country. We're better for it, and that's what the framers of the Constitution intended.
Ted Boutros, thank you so much. I know so many people listen to NPR, they watch PBS, they really rely on the reporting.
Chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh Tôi Màu của mình. Hôm nay thì mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn tô màu một bức tranh thì một cô gái đang cầm một hộp quà nha. Đầu tiên thì mình sẽ tô màu mái tóc của cô gái thì mình sẽ lựa chọn tô mái tóc thì màu hồng. thì mình sẽ tô chân nâu, thì mình sẽ lựa chọn tô màu vàng. Tiếp theo thì mình sẽ tô màu chữ váy nha. Chữ váy thì có những chữ nâu rất là xinh. Những chữ nâu thì mình sẽ lựa chọn tô màu hồng trước. Rồi, tiếp theo thì mình sẽ tô màu chiếc váy nha. Đầu tiên thì mình sẽ lựa chọn tô màu cam. Rồi, chiếc váy cũng được tô màu cam. Tiếp theo thì mình sẽ tô phần chân váy. Phần chân váy này rất là màu trông rất là đẹp. Rồi, tiếp theo thì mình sẽ tô màu chiếc hộp quà nha. Chiếc hộp quà thì mình sẽ lựa chọn tô màu xanh. Nên mình sẽ tô chữ nâu. Tiếp theo hộp quà thì mình sẽ lựa chọn tô màu đỏ. Rồi, tiếp theo thì mình sẽ tô đôi giày nha. Đôi giày mình sẽ lựa chọn tô màu hồng. Mình sẽ tô màu hồng vào trên váy nha. Rồi, vậy là mình đã tô màu và hoàn thiện xong bức tranh về cô gái đang hợp bê chiếc hộp quà. Thì các bạn có thể tham khảo qua cách tô màu này của mình. Video tô màu đến đây cũng hết. Hẹn gặp lại tất cả các bạn ở các video tô màu tiếp theo.